May I have your attention, please? You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG podcast. The following show may be explicit. I said no, you can't play a ninja. This is an Old West game, and they didn't have ninjas.
But the year is 1869, and there are historical records indicating there were ninjas.
In fucking Japan, not in the Old West. I said no.
You're already railroading me. You're already railroading
This
me.
is an Old West game, and they didn't have ninjas. Why do you
It's just like the last
always
game.
have to play oddball?
It's just like the last
Can't play
game.
nothing normal.
Where you wouldn't let me play a Nazi, I had to play you.
Why, hello, and welcome to season 29, episode 15 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
And I'm Stork.
In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, Eric from New Jersey writes in about immersion. We revisit Hosier Rob's very first email.
Aww. What a young Hosier Rob.
And Mr. CJ, or MRCJ, never got I don't know if I ever got a straight answer to that, sends us some thoughts on the show.
Oh,
But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the show live, the show is at 7:30 p.m. at happyjacks.org/live. Other stuff?
Everything's going well. The big move's tomorrow. I'm not nervous. It'll be fine. But the space is all painted and ready. It's posted
Excellent.
pictures on the Discord today. It looks all nice. And the rug came today, so the rug is all down.
I've started painting.
Yeah, it looks nice.
It's just a different shade of gray.
It's
I honestly
the same shade of gray.
didn't notice. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, well, I patched a bunch of holes.
Holes, yeah. Oh, I see,
Yeah.
I see.
It's
Okay.
like, it can be none more gray.
It's
Yes.
none more black.
So, let's see. I think everything, because of all your amazing supports, we got everything we needed off of our baby registry for the studio.
excellent.
Little Dio. And Patreon has some exciting things happening. We're going to start having a couple little perks for our Patreon supporters. We're not looking to build like an army of people, but if you are interested in joining the Patreon, go check it out. There's some fun stuff happening there.
A company, maybe a division,
A division, maybe.
not a whole army.
No, not a whole army. Just a small, like a platoon.
regiment.
A regiment. I don't know.
The army takes a lot to feed. There's support. You got to get gassed, all the vehicles. It's a pain in the ass.
Yes.
More armies have been defeated by not having enough food and gas.
Right.
Or
And
too much gas.
From the food.
lots of gas. The beans.
Be very quiet. That was my mouth.
Yes, that was 100%.
It was like astonishing timing.
That was very good.
So vaudeville.
And yeah, if you want to join the Discord, it's grown like a lot in the last week or two.
Oh, good.
Like we've gotten so many people, and like I was telling you, our friend from Antarctica is there, and he fessed up who he was. It was very exciting.
Cool.
And he put himself on the map too.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, we still don't have anybody from South America. So come on, people. I see that there are people in Brazil listening.
Oh, there's a
there's a bunch.
There's a big RPG community in Brazil.
Yeah, and
big one.
they're on the map. When I look at where our downloads are coming from, you were there. So go to happyjacks.org/worldmap and put yourself on the map because I want we have all the other continents except Africa so far. Except South America, and I know you're there.
And, there's definitely listeners in
Yes,
South
so
America.
do the thing. I promise.
I thought we had like a South African listener or two.
No,
Once upon a
No,
time.
I do not recall
I thought
it.
so too, but I don't know.
I would have remembered.
I think we
'Cause
had
I started
people who
keeping track
went
early.
there.
Well,
There
that
was
could
someone
be.
who wrote in and said, "Hey, I'm traveling there. Does that count?" And we were like, "No."
That could be.
Yeah. But yeah,
That'll be our next continent to conquer.
next one, the conquering
We
of...
did
yeah.
very well at Scandinavia.
Yes. And after you've got continents, then you start going by nations.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You're an old Risk player, though.
Yeah. All right. Immersion from Eric in New Jersey. Hello to Kimmy and the Jackers. It's Eric from New Jersey again.
Thank you, Eric.
I want to thank you first for reading my email, and it has given me a lot of food for thought as to what to do with my Star Trek game.
I'm glad. I remember that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that was like last week, I think. It wasn't that long
Yeah,
ago.
it was a few weeks ago,
Two
yeah.
weeks ago. Maybe 3, I don't remember. But then you read the next email, which was from someone named Magic Octopus and talked about immersion.
We sang a bunch for that one.
Yes, which is something Stu seeks in gaming. It's also the prime reason I game when I'm not GMing. So, this goes out to Magic Octopus, who wants those immersive moments. Go LARP!
Why didn't we suggest that? That's
Because
you're
we're
right,
idiots.
You're right. We didn't even think
like-
about it.
You know what? It's just like, yeah, if you want an immersive experience, I can't think of a more immersive experience than LARP. Maybe. Okay, now there are different types of LARPs. Don't do anything that Tappy has gone to, because those sound terrible. Tappy has some LARP horror stories. Tappy had nothing but LARP horror stories.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's also like a large percentage of Tappy's stories in general.
Yes.
So I feel like that kind of throws off that bell curve a little
Yes,
bit.
and that's the stuff you tend to remember anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So, also, keep in mind that there are LARPs that are much more combat-focused than roleplay. The goal is to find a LARP that is more roleplay-focused, or even find a LARP big enough that different types of gamers can all sort of congregate together, i.e. the combat people go over here, the puzzle solvers over yonder, and over there the people just role-playing with each other. Part of the reason I mentioned LARP is because it forces you to play the small moments. Mm-hmm. You are in character even when nothing is going on and you're sitting around a fire. Tales told during downtime can be some of the most satisfying role-playing out there. I talked about that, and that was one of the things that I loved most about the latest Savage Worlds was the interludes, or I can't remember what they called it. But it's like we have some time in between. Bip, 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 throw out a card. Okay, you tell us.
Story time.
It's fucking amazing. This is awesome. And those are like little magic moments. Sometimes you're sitting around a fire. Tales told during downtime is some of the most satisfying role-playing out there. It really helps you expand your character, and it can be safely immersive. Not all immersion has to be high-energy emotions like anger.
True that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, where do you find such a LARP? Join groups and ask people who run it what kind of LARP they are. A lot of LARPs will be a mix, so don't be afraid if there is combat in addition to the roleplay. The LARP I go to in Pennsylvania, Xanodria.
Yeah, the nod is capitalized there. Xanodria. It's got to be.
Xanodria is a boffer LARP, a.k.a. we use insulated plumber's piping. What kind of plumber's piping?
It's just that insulation that you
Yeah,
put around plumbers'
They
pipes.
wrap like foam around it and stuff.
Yeah, but still, you got a steel pipe. What kind of pipe are they using?
No, I think it's probably like the PVC.
Oh, insulated plumber's piping. I don't know what that means. You mean like pipe insulation? Maybe like
I
noodle?
think you
like
take a PVC
noodles?
pipe and then you wrap
Like
one of
pool
those
noodles?
insulation noodles.
The stuff I've seen looks like pool noodles. Pool noodles.
with lots of duct tape.
Pool
Pool
noodles.
noodles. Pools. I've also bought. They have like really nice looking LARP, like swords and stuff now. I've used
they
it
do.
for cosplay a couple times.
Yeah, they do.
So,
Back in the day when I was doing AOKP, we had to make our own, and we used.
Yeah.
I used about halfway up. It was just PVC pipe, and then it was sort of flappy up at the top, so we could like whack each other. But it was mostly that insulated stuff that's like slit, and you put it around your pipes, and then wrapped it up with duct tape.
Have you ever heard of Bataka bats?
Huh? Talk about it?
No one's ever heard Bataka bats.
No.
I had a kid across the street from me, Ross. He had one, and his older brother had one. They were given to them, and they are like this big, and they're swords. But the sword blade part of it is made out of like sort of dense-ish foam rubber, and it's thick. So it's like what people are making for boffer LARPs, but someone in the 70s actually made these
I
things.
have seen them. I've seen them. They've got like the sword handle and this big old.
And it was a big, it had like a pommel even.
I think that the army used to use them for like combat training.
No.
To like whack each other with.
They were called Bataka bats. They got them. The two brothers got them for a Christmas, and within like a week, they had been told never to fight with each other again. So every
what
time.
are you expecting as a parent when you
Right.
bought those.
Well, they can't hurt themselves. It's foam. And you're like, oh my god.
So every time I'd go over to Ross's house, I said, "Let's get the Batako bats and beat crap out of each other." Oh no! So we never got to play with them.
They would just sit there taunting you.
Right.
There it is.
Yeah,
Looks like fun.
it was there in this room, but yeah. He says, "Oh no.
No.
We got some expert advice. Like the ones I buy are for cosplay and stuff because they don't let you take real swords and stuff into to conventions are like they're made out of latex and they look really realistic. But oh god, I lost it. Someone in the chat was Devio Mac says that the latex ones can get a bit hard in the cold.
Ow.
So you're like, yeah, right? I'm like, I cosplay in Southern California. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could happen to a lot of stuff if it's outside and cold enough.
Absolutely. See, I have to worry about things melting.
I haven't had that experience usually. When it's cold, there's no.
That's different.
What are we talking about?
What?
Yeah, that's different. That's not the same.
Was it Zenodria? It's an insulated pipers. Yeah, that boy tangent. Insulated plumbers piping to beat the crap out of each other. But I have cried in character there after being beat up.
Yeah.
With a lead pipe. Mind you.
Wrapped in a pool noodle. Come on, it's
Wrapped
fine.
in a pool noodle, I guess. Mind you, I suck at fighting. So combat is not for me, but the role playing more than makes up for it. Depending on where you live, there should be some events in your area, and chances are you will find something that will help you scratch that immersion itch in a manner that is relatively safe. Excuse me. I'm sorry to the host that I don't have any questions or anything like that. I do encourage everyone to try a decent LARP at some point. Take care, all of you. Stay drunk, stay diverse. Eric from New Jersey.
Huzzah.
Thank you.
I keep meaning to, because they have all the LARPs at Strategicon. We're always a little busy at Strategicon, though.
Right.
And I want to make an outfit for it. So I want to, know which one I'm going to join, plan way ahead, make some incredible outfit, and then, I don't know. Because that's the part I'm really excited about, is making the outfit.
I want to do an L5R.
I know.
So bad. That would be
Samantha and
so
I
much
are, we're in, we've got, we talked, for hours one time about the outfits we'd make for that LARP.
An L5R would be fun. I wouldn't mind doing a Star Wars LARP either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of us have stuff like that already.
Yeah, I know.
She wants to make something new.
Yeah.
Well, I have a latex Togruta, I think, Ahsoka. I have the head part of that. I need to make the
Ahsoka Tano, she's a Twi'lek. And they've
No,
got
then she's not Twi'lek.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah,
She's
the
I think it's
Togruta.
Togruta, yeah.
Yeah. And the mandrels.
Yeah, so they've got
Oh,
the
yeah.
pointy...
That's the one I always used to. It has almost like a crest on top.
Yeah, and then it comes down. So I have one of those. I haven't painted it yet, so I could use that. Mm-hmm. That's new.
There you go.
And they have fun painting with that.
Yeah.
All sorts of colors.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. LARPs, having started LARP back before the word LARP was a thing, they can be a lot of fun. And yeah, there's some immersion going on, and yeah, there's a lot of role playing, both good and bad. It's definitely a way to immerse because you don't really get away from it, and then you are just interacting daily. I have to go to the bathroom, so you have to come up with a way to say it in
Right.
whatever in context of the LARP to move on. So you're constantly immersed. You can't just get out of it, really.
Did you just call it Ren Fair? What did you do?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
That. Pretty. Where's the pretty?
Yeah.
Mind you, good sir.
But what did you call it before you called it LARP? Seriously.
I don't know if we called it anything.
LARP,
It was
the
ARPG.
term LARP was early. 'Cause I remember when I was in high school, I ran a killer game, which was Steve Jackson Games. Sort of, it was like a murder.
I did that too.
Like a round robin murder thing.
Oh, yeah.
We get a bunch of people, and everyone is given a name, and you basically make a big circle chart. And as people get killed, this person gets that name, and so
We played
on.
it school wide. We were running around after school with dark.
Yeah, we got in a lot of trouble.
Amazing.
We got in a lot of trouble, and
Yep, us too.
but they called it a LARP in that book. Now that book probably came out in '82 or 3.
I did not know that because I played that game too, but I didn't. The word LARP hadn't been. In AOKP, we just called it. It was sort of modeled after the Society of Creative Anachronism, which I don't think call themselves LARPers.
No, they're very upset if you call them that.
I know. Right now, I'm getting hate mail. Don't. I mean, I'm just using it as an example.
You're going to start a rumble between the Renaissance Fair people and the SCA people.
Yeah, and the SCA people have real swords, so like.
And know how to use them. They make them.
Yeah, don't upset them. Upset the pool noodle people. Come on.
The only difference is we have an audience to hide behind.
There you go. Look, free beer. Run the other way.
So we were sort of modeling after that, but it really wasn't a LARP per se because we didn't know what it was. We didn't know. Yeah. We didn't have the vocabulary for it. In hindsight, now it's exactly what it was.
Yeah, it's definitely something I would want to try just to kind of see how they how they're organized. To see if it's something I would ever want to run. Because it's
a little like going to a magical feast. It's a little like...
What's it like GMing this thing?
Yeah.
But I have to see how it's done, because I have no earthly idea how you would run a LARP.
But you see, I think I'd want to be a caster, because I was really good at softball. So I think that, don't you have to, throw the little different colors? And, just...
Jimmy!
Wow.
Depending on the LARP, yeah, you might.
Yeah, see, it's like...
But you can't throw your fireball underhand.
I'd be such a... Well, no, you have to throw overhand in softball to, throw it to other people.
It would be cool to have the underhand fireball.
I think you can do it however you want. I don't think... There shouldn't be rules to how you do your magic. That is ruin the immersiveness.
I like the underhand fireball. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm really gonna get... I might just say, right?
Launch it?
Yeah.
Or the basketball from the free throw line.
Yep.
I think we've now established that I'm just a wild LARP min-maxer. Everything else I want immersion. No, I want to win the LARP.
Right, yeah.
Damn it.
I want to make a volleyball fireball. We throw it up and then...
Let's do a swimming LARP. I can win that.
They should have aquatic LARPs.
I'm sure they do.
In the ocean at night. That's not terrifying.
There's a whole mermaid culture happening. I'm sure that they do LARPing together.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole thing. I own a tail. I've never used it, unfortunately.
It's right next to the Torguda skull. It's perfect.
Right.
Maybe you can mix the two.
No, that one folds, so it's under the...
A Torguda skull?
No, it's like the...
Head.
No, it's a head.
Oh, I thought
not a skull.
I'm like, Jesus, that's dark.
What?
I'm sure somebody somewhere has one. It's a thing.
Burning candles on top.
Oh, no, see? James V says LARP is usually underhand only. So that would be safer.
Oh, sure.
90 mile an hour.
Now you're talking
underhand.
pitching speed.
Yeah.
Right? Not, throwing from first to second.
Yeah.
You want to read Hozier Rob's first email? Someone want to read that?
Sure, I'll read that. Why
Wait,
not?
okay, so did you find this? Or did he send this in again?
I found it. I went through and I found it. Yep.
Did you tell him you were doing this?
No.
This is so fun. Okay.
Yeah.
It's weird because now he's like a good friend and he's been on the show. He's a friend of the show. He's a friend of ours, and we met him through this show.
Oh, I know.
Him and Dave.
Right? They came out the fair and they were like,
read the email.
"Here we go."
Very, this is fun.
Spoons, douche in the D-bags. As always, thanks for keeping the podcast entertaining with great information. I was listening to the beginning of Season 2, Episode 10.
This was a long time ago.
And some reader email, as well as the alignment discussions about Episode 8, got me thinking of other ways players and GMs can come into conflict with preconceived notions, and wanted to get your thoughts on it. When I first started playing D&D, I was more into sci-fi, so fantasy was relatively new to me. I decided to play a dwarven cleric of Thor. Nice and normal for a dwarf. When I started describing him, I could see the horror start to form in the other players' faces.
Wait, reflecting, now that I know Rob, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Right?
Uh-huh. Okay, continue.
And I'm pretty sure Dave was the GM for this. Okay.
Oh, this is so fun.
The ninja song, the other guy could be Rob.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could see the horror start to form on the other players' faces. He loved puns and bad jokes, almost in a stork way. Had a small beard and was fairly happy and liked to hug people. Over the 2 to 3 years of that campaign, I, as a player and as a character, was given a ration of shit from the other people in the group for not playing him like a dwarf. Or, that's in quotes, like a dwarf. I mentioned on the forum about the chronicle that we would write post-game in character voice. Thanks for talking about that in episode 7. And the vitriol that came from the other characters in voice was impressive. But sadly, wasn't just a role-playing element for some. All this because he didn't meet the group's notions of what was dwarfish, The DM was totally cool with the character, and he eventually became an NPC in other games, much to the chagrin of the other PCs. But ever since, I felt more compelled to play characters in fantasy closer to the preconceived notions. Gone are the days of happy-go-lucky dwarves.
Oh.
As I write this, I can hear people say, get a different group! And I had a great fortune to game with some of the closest friends for most of my life. So that option is less preferable.
Although, technically, looking back, he totally did. Yeah, he dumped them for us. Like,
Yeah.
100%.
That being said, I think that many other role players, especially fantasy, have a tendency to pigeonhole races. Dwarves should be gruff, elves should be nature-loving, and gnomes love to tinker, etc. I know you guys have mentioned modifying the roles of monsters with their alignments, or having players perceive them in different ways, i.e. goblins being victims of circumstance. But what about the aberration of PCs heading against the descriptions provided by the player's handbook? Have you seen similar things in other gaming sessions? If this gets on air, it will probably be after fair, so hopefully by then I will be basking in the afterglow of the Rogue's Reef and the melodies about ale, whores, and masks shaped like penises. Thanks for the great podcast and many happy beers to you all. Hosier Rob, and Bruce was right. Hosier is in Take Off You Hoser a la Strange Brew.
See, I believe this was this is the email. This email happened before the first season of Fair after we started the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there are only 10 episodes in season 1. So that would have taken us from July probably to winter, and then season 2 would have started. And this email came from season 2, I believe. So season 2 would have gone through the end of winter in through Fair.
Because we used to take a break at Fair.
Right.
We would stop. So around this time.
Right.
And now, I remember they showed up at Fair. Because we'd already had at least a year, maybe 2, and they showed up.
They were so nervous.
And they were nervous.
It's
and
so funny.
I remember them saying, oh, that's Stork. I recognize his voice and all that. You know, this is Dave and all that. And they were very polite and nice to us. And they hung out at the table a bit and talked. And now they're like some of our closest friends. They started out as fans, and now it's like Dave helps us with I call him like one of my best friends. It's really
We'll see him
great.
tomorrow at Build.
We will.
No, you won't. He's helping me tomorrow.
Oh, shit. Damn it.
He's coming here to help me take all this shit down and move it to my house.
He's one of the more productive people.
That's why he's coming and helping me tomorrow. But, yeah.
He knows one end of a cable from another.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
To be fair.
This is so fun. And, yeah, it's interesting. Like, I'm just thinking about the kind of advice we would have given then. And how much, like we gave good advice then, but I feel like over 13 years we've learned so much.
Well, he was one of the first people who was, because this is like when we started to realize how lucky we are to have so many people who play role-playing games in this area by living in an area with a high population density.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people in whatever hobby you have, there's a lot of other people around here who are going to also enjoy that hobby.
And at the time, he lived like right next to Gaming Empire,
Right.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
like right around the corner kind of thing.
But this is when we started getting pushback to the find a new group advice.
Right?
Yeah. Find a new group. Well,
But
we can't all do that.
No.
In his email, he actually does bring up the question that point, and I've run into some of that too. Where is if you play a fantasy character that's off the beaten path, people get upset at you.
Especially in D&D, especially in organized play.
Yeah. Like an elf would not. Excuse me, an elf does not behave like that.
Right.
You don't even know you're high hadron. It's strange how the gatekeeping can happen with
Oh, sure.
character races of. I don't know. It's strange. It is, and it is. I have experienced it. I have seen it. In sci-fi, it's much looser. I guess maybe because alien races aren't as beloved or loosely defined, or you can be whatever you want to be, kind of thing.
Oh,
Star Trek kind of proved that.
there's some pushback on blue Klingons.
That could be, if you don't play your Romulan like a Spartan, then
Right.
you're not playing it right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you can't have a peace-loving Romulan. What's wrong with you?
Well, this is one of the reasons I really love the Dragon Prince cartoon that's on Netflix.
I forgot about that.
And they're doing a Cortex. I think Cortex Prime is doing a game of it. I'm really excited.
Oh, really?
It's releasing in a couple weeks. But it's like this big hit show, really good for kids, for everybody. But it really turns a lot of these kind of tropes on its head. There's lots of different elven groups, and they're all very different from each other. One of the leads is an elf, and she speaks with a Scottish accent.
Mm-hmm.
Like the elves have like different accents from all different places. So it's just kind of fun that.
No, dwarves have.
Right? That's the thing. Like
Right?
everyone, when it first started, was like, oh, like it took us all a minute to be like, okay, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. Like, but it's like that blink of a moment, you know.
And one troll also has a Scottish accent.
But yeah, it's very fun.
I remember back in the 80s, now that we're bringing this up, that there was a comic book. It had quite a cult following. It's been reprinted hundreds of times, and it's called ElfQuest.
Oh, yeah.
And again, it was tribes of different elves, and they weren't your Tolkien elves. They were sort of medium height, and they rode...
They were more like fairy elves.
Some of them were. Some of them rode wolves. Some of them were more like gelflings from... but they were different tribes and different types, and they had different cultures, even though they were all elves.
Right.
Which... I suppose if you go in and say, I want to play an elf like out of ElfQuest, suddenly everything's okay again. You can play any kind of elf you want. But, you know, if you're not playing Legolas, if you don't warn anybody, they all get upset.
Right.
I've run into that, and it bothers me. Mm-hmm. There's been much made about the sort of pre-baked racism that can happen in a lot of these role-playing games where, there's the most obvious is the dwarven elvish rivalry. So, somebody playing an elf runs into a dwarf and they immediately start slinging, treating them terribly, and it's not always good.
Right. Well, one of the things he's mentions in here is like the goblins,
Right.
They're victims of circumstance. That's lifted directly from the 4th edition D&D game I ran, where you guys murdered almost everyone, and you got one left. I think there was one that you didn't kill, and then you found out, they have all of your children someplace. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should help you.
That was a learning moment for me.
I think Kimmy did that too. I think one of the first games, it might have been the first game that you ran. You had goblins.
It was the 4th edition D&D game
that were captured. Yeah, and that was you.
I think so.
You GM'd that one, and they were.
I was GMing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did ghosts.
Oh, that's right.
The ghosts that were actually the victims.
Right.
You guys figured that out pretty quick, though. I think we'd all, by that point, been like, oh, that trick. Wait a minute.
Right.
Oh, that old trick.
Yeah, it doesn't work out. It doesn't work if you do it too much.
Yeah. Well, it was like my second game. I hadn't done anything too much.
Right.
So, but I think I was like one of those things where I described them very sympathetically, and you're like, we're going to fight. Wait a minute.
Wait.
Kimmy's got empathy for these. Wait a minute.
Right. Well, this is just, this guy's mentioning elves within a shattered nation. Drow coming out. We just had the last session of the Eldemy game on Sunday.
Yeah.
And everyone was waiting for the elves to return.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh.
And they never did.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
They're gone. No, it's not what the story was about.
Oh, okay.
But in that, one of the things that I've always wanted to do in a fantasy game is have the elves be a dying race. Like they're going away, and they're going away for a biological reason.
Yeah.
An elf woman can only bear one child.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So that population, even if they do live for thousands of years, is eventually going to go away.
Yeah.
So that in the world, that happened probably a few thousand years ago. But there's this whole civilization that was there, much of which was magically preserved. But there's no people.
Yeah. Interesting.
It was a good game. It was fun.
Exciting.
Everything got wrapped up in a nice little bow at the end.
Yeah.
And nobody died. Except for the bad guy. Oop.
I'm just glad that we got to the end of it. I was so worried with all the postponing from COVID and fair coming. I was like, oh God, please come on, just finish the game.
It was a shorter campaign than I anticipated.
And we all planned because but we had to wrap it up before fair. So I'm glad that it worked out with the story though. All right, thoughts on the show from Mercer or Mr. CJ? We're not sure which.
Right.
All right.
Sure.
Hey, Stu, just a quick note. I think I started listening to Happy Jacks in the 3rd season. It was fairly early on. Before I got an iPhone, before the iPod, I listened on a little MP3 player I got as a gift the previous Christmas.
Yeah, it's important to remember that we started as a podcast.
Yeah.
For 3-4 years, it was just audio only.
No, longer than that.
Way longer than that.
I mean, unless you count, remember the janky old, webcams you had in the
epic.
That was not.
That was epic stuff.
Not
that we were
epic.
streaming. Well, we originally started streaming the audio only because I found a web service that was actually made for DJs. So we did the show Mixler, I think it was.
Yeah, it was Mixler. Yeah.
And we did that for a couple months, I think.
And a chat room.
and a chat room at the
We
same
added
time.
a chat room. Yeah, that's right.
And then we switched over to Google Hangouts. Is what it was originally?
I have no idea.
Skype?
Went through? No. It was so people could watch.
I think
Oh,
it
right.
might have been Hangouts.
I think it might have been
Yeah.
the early Google.
Like the
Excuse me,
really
Google
early
Hangouts.
ones, yeah. Yeah, because we have only, I mean, I guess it's been like 7, how long have we been?
It's been a long time. Yeah.
I guess so. I always think of it as like, it's only been a couple years, and now I'm like,
No.
yeah,
No. And you have to add 3 because of the pandemic, because you're probably not
I always
counting those
forget
2.
that, yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like my toddler comes in, I'm like, how are you a toddler? You were born yesterday, come on!
Weird thing, went back to fair. It's like the last fair just happened a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That place doesn't age. Like, all the people age, but fair itself is like this weird, it's just out of time. It's very
like
strange.
a carbuncle
Yeah, there you go.
or a cyst.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cysts grow.
Yeah. Oh, Fox50 says, I remember painting minis and listening to Mixer back in the early days.
There you go.
Yeah. So, yeah, long ago.
And good sound quality on Mixler too. It had
Yeah, it was
very
really
good sound
good.
quality at the time because it was for music. Anyway, good.
I started to listen to the show at a low point for me personally. The Great Recession was in full swing. I was out of a job and felt bad, doing just about everything other than looking for work. It was a desperate time and so isolating. Those early shows, Stu, Stork, Tappy, and were a welcome escape from the drudgery of unemployment and a window to the kinds of conversations I used to have with friends that were now so far away. I had not gamed in years, but those friendly interactions between the hosts, with the friendly interactions between the hosts, I was buoyed for a time.
You know what's ironic is that was pretty much the last 2 years as well for most people.
Oh yeah.
We were all isolated. We're all the drudgery of unemployment. It was big
Yep.
circle.
Yeah. In the summer, I had decided to listen through the backlog on weekends. I love how he's like, I listened through the whole backlog, and it was like season 3.
Right.
There were some long episodes.
Yes, that's
though,
true.
And
I
there was a
used to-
lot of drinking.
Before I started the show, I was listening to other RPG podcasts because I was kind of getting interested in just getting back into the hobby in general, and that's
Right.
one of the things you do when you listen to a lot of podcasts. Anyway, so and I started listening to them, like, that's not right. Man, he's got a point there, but you know, and
I could do this better.
exactly.
Yes.
Although some of them I thought were fantastic.
Okay.
I would love to meet the guys that did the original Dragon's Landing Inn, because they stopped doing the podcast, and it was a fantastic podcast.
Oh.
Audio quality was fantastic. Can't even find it anymore. I think that all the hosting went away, so that, who knows? If someone might have an archive of it out there, or
Yeah.
something like that. But they were a fantastic show, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, I started going to Renaissance Fair, and now I started a band, and we just got hired, so we're going to do that instead."
What?
Yes!
That's very weird.
They're from Texas, and I can't remember the name of the band. It's the something Rogues or something.
Oh my gosh, we probably know them.
We might. I don't know. I've never met them, but I would like to meet those
There's
guys.
like 4 or 5 bands that have the word Rogues in the title,
Yeah.
so you're gonna have to be
Yeah.
more specific than
Yeah,
that.
I don't remember. I don't remember the name of the
Okay.
band. But I thought it was very. I know one of the guys, one of the hosts, his name was Lonnie. I remember that.
Lonnie.
And they had a guy named like History Dave.
What?
Oh yeah, and then I can't remember who the third guy. There was two
sorry.
main guys.
Dave is superior to History Dave. That's a much better.
Our
History-
Dave is better
History
than
Dave
their
was
Dave.
also he just knew a lot about history, but he was like a very jolly, sort of very friendly kind of guy. And he wasn't on all the time; he was only on once in a while. And when he was on, it was like, oh, History
It's a
Dave
History
is on.
Dave.
So it's probably the same way people do with CA Dave.
What, have we ever seen History Dave and Kadave in the same room
No.
at the same
Now
time?
that you mention it,
He could be the same guy. They may have said, "Oh, we're doing a podcast. I need to sneak out there and insert myself into it."
I just need to know: are we the shadow version of them, or are they the shadow version of us? Because it sounds like it's
Well,
awfully similar.
I had never really thought about it, but it was Dan Repiger from Fear the Boot, who said that he sort of considered Happy Jacks to sort of be like the I can't remember the descendant of Dragon's Landing Inn, because the tone is very similar. And I didn't model the show after theirs, but their show is extremely conversational and did not sound like it was edited. And of
Interesting.
course,
That's really the key right there. Is there's the laziness and lack of editing because who needs that much?
Little work.
Yeah.
Yep.
It sounds like you guys just switched like jobs. It's like we are a Ren Fair band.
That was the funny part.
And we are podcasters for tabletop RPGs. Let's switch.
Right.
So you were the original band. They were the original podcasters. So both of you
Right.
copied from each other.
Shadow Realm.
Yeah.
It is. But I would love for them to see that band and talk to those people because flipped exactly.
It's gonna be like the Star Trek mirror dimension where like we run into evil Stu or good Stu.
Right.
Actually, it would be good Stu without the beard, and he would be yeah. That's so fun.
Oh yeah. Oh no, Fox 50. Fox is like, I want to go Super OG. I think her name was Claire. Yeah, Claire is actually
Still around.
still on the show. Yeah, CB. So yeah, and they've been on a couple shows recently. So she's
good.
Yeah, they're more on the APs.
Right.
But just because Friday night's hard and difficult when you live farther away. All right. Sorry, we keep getting like nostalgic. In the summer, I decided to listen to the backlog on weekends. I remember a few Saturdays working in the yard, then laying in the shade of a cherry tree and napping during a few of those 3-hour marathon episodes.
I remember napping through a couple of those 3-hour marathons too.
I don't remember if you.
Over the years, I was excited to have a few of my letters read in the show. I was also pleased to be the voice of Robert in his telephone message to Stork's character in the first vampire game.
That was very cool. With the cars going by and everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very cool.
That was very cool.
It was a really neat immersive moment.
I assume that he probably recorded it like on the road. Like,
Maybe. I don't know. It sounded very
It sounded like he was like at a phone booth, like calling, and that was
Yeah.
the setup. At least for me, that's what it was. It was very cool.
It is hard to put on a show like this week after week, and if it is time to move on, then move on. I just want to personally say thank you to Stu and the rest of the team for all the work over the years.
Aw.
Mark, Mr. CJ, or Merger.
Mercager.
That's a game.
That's a game. Right.
Mercager is an actual game.
Is it Mercager or Hercager? I don't remember.
Mercager.
It's Mercager.
Yeah. That was very sweet.
Well, thank you, Mark, Mr. CJ, MRCJ, however you pronounce it. I still don't know.
Now you just have to write in again, and yeah.
I'm sure he wrote in and told us how to pronounce it.
Probably.
We just don't.
You just didn't read that email.
No.
It was right next to Hoja Rob's from the second season.
Probably.
So, yeah, this is your last episode.
This is my last episode.
Not like
well, not
ever.
Forever.
But this is like the last one here at our original studio.
Last one for a while.
Well, yeah, you're going to be doing fair.
Right.
That would normally be how it works anyway.
Well, we just used to do the Friday shows.
That's true. That's true.
And I think at some point you're just going to start wanting to GM again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's going to be like I'm really excited about my new hobby. Oh, it's becoming a normal thing again. Hey, I think I really have a great idea for a campaign.
Oh, I've got it, but it's got a lot of irons to it. I mean, it's going to be a podcast, but it's going to be other things besides that as well.
Okay.
That's the plan. We'll see.
Okay.
And I won't say too much until I know.
But you still promised one campaign a year.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the next one.
Yeah, but one campaign a year can last like 3 years.
Well, I won't run I'm not going to run 40 session games.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wouldn't mind running another L5R game, especially, or even another Motosim game would be fun.
That'd be cool.
You have so many ideas in those worlds.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back and play Vampire. L5R is obviously the pinnacle of game you run, my favorites. But also I've wanted to go back and be a real bloodthirsty Ventru. Oh, you looked at me funny. I'm murdering you.
Right.
Just death to everybody, death to you, death to everybody. All the money for me.
Yeah, you never really played Ventrus with the sort of level of hubris that one would expect from a Ventru.
No, I was trying. It was one of our early APs, so I
Right.
really was focused on following our advice about being a good player, about
And
working
collaboration,
with collaboration at the table, and yeah, I feel like that's where a lot of the spinning plate things was okay, let's. And I think I was handling it like a teacher in a class, working with everybody and making everybody behave, and let's all work together for our goal. Because when I got to play the Setite when we did the Kindred,
Right.
the mini campaign.
No, that was the end of. Wasn't Wasn't the Setite the character that replaced
Yeah.
what's her name?
Yeah. But we did like that 2-shot series.
Right.
And that's where she got introduced.
Right.
And then I think I brought her in for the...
Okay.
Yeah. Or whatever
You'd also set your Ventrue up as she was like a CEO of a major corporation, so she was in charge anyway, and used to doling out. Yeah, you would set it up that way.
Yeah.
It was more like she wanted the princedom or lordship. I don't remember what we called it.
Yeah, it was Princeton.
But once she had it, it's like
It's a lot of fucking
kind of
work.
a pain in the ass.
I have some problems with Vampire too. The whhole waking up and having to feed every day gets in the way. There's also just the fact that you end up attacking your players, fellow players. It's like you have to figure out reasons to even get along with a plan. It's like normally you wouldn't, and then the game's over.
Right. Well, that's part of the underlying tension where some of the drama comes from, is the fact that you are a bunch of solitary predators who are put into a position where you need to work together for some reason.
Same as like an L5R game when you're not in the same clan.
I was about to say that.
They're very similar in a lot of ways. But you're constrained a lot by your clan,
Yes.
by your motivations within your clan and for your clan,
All the D10s.
And who you are,
and who you are. Right.
because
And oftentimes I find myself struggling to like screw this, guys, I'm out of here, which is what you would normally do. It's just like in Cthulhu. It's like some eldritch horrors behind the door. Why would you stick around? I'm out of here. But for the sake of gaming, you come up with reasons to stick around. So there's always a weird force thing anyway, especially with those games that make it really hard to want to group together. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess most people play part of the same clan. I guess that's usually how that works, right? So that you guys are stuck together.
no,
because
it's
of
actually like in most of those games.
I think they just don't always have you and Mac at the table.
In most of those games, it's assumed you're being playing either a bunch of different clans, whether you're talking about L5R or Vampire.
Yeah.
They must
Because
wipe each
that's
other out like
basically
after
the
2
classes.
episodes.
That's
Well,
the classes.
Yeah, and it's like backbiting. There's supposed to be the political machinations in the party, and then like while it's also like a larger driving goal. So it's kind of like there's many layers. It's not supposed to be like D&D where you're like, we're gonna kill the thing together.
Realistically, Albert would have gotten on his motorcycle second episode and ridden off
Fuck
into the sunset.
this.
Fuck,
Right.
I'm out of here, and then I would have made a new character or something, because that's what would have happened. He was struggling to figure out reasons to stick
You're
around.
supposed to make a character that has a reason to stick around.
Yeah,
A loner gangrel isn't always the.
kind of all gangrels. Unfortunately, it turns out that's sort of like their motivation. It's like they don't play well with others. They don't even play well with each other.
Yeah.
I'm a lone wolf.
Yeah.
Literally,
That family's
they literally
giant.
can turn into a wolf.
Yes. You have a giant tower that is your business corporation that you can't leave.
Right.
Oh, the dogs are like, our last episode too. Ruff, ruff.
Right. You won't get to hear them anymore.
I know.
So I was sitting here thinking about what we should do to celebrate this, and I was going to ask you the question, like, do you have a favorite episode or a favorite Happy Jacks moment,
No.
or do you have a least
so
favorite
many.
episode?
Least favorite?
Yeah.
No, I would have even remembered that.
Because I can remember a letter that came in.
Well, the fight with Tappy over the word crunch, that was pretty navel
That was
easy.
a 3
That was-
hours.
And he was pissed.
You were angry at each other.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
like an actual, like, yeah.
Well, I get like short-term angry. It's just like boom, and then it's gone. That's not what Tappy does.
No,
He was pissed at me for a while.
he was. That's
Yeah, yeah.
funny.
I was just trying to remember like some of the weird emails we had, and I can remember the one from Scandinavia about this girl who was playing online.
Oh, yeah.
And I will never ever forget that moment.
Yeah,
where
that's
she
when
was-
we had to. And then the horror stories started getting worse and worse.
Right,
So,
right.
Okay, let's tone this down.
Yeah.
Let's talk about bad gamers, not bad people.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was just an awkward, weird, terrible situation.
Oh, yeah.
It was early on video game, and I remember or video chat, and I remember thinking to myself, "Wow, I don't ever want to be in a situation like that. And how would you prevent that? And how would and
Right.
it was." I will never forget that email, and I will never forget that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Like I remember sitting here just like ashen, going, "What?"
Wow,
As
I'm
we're
really
as
glad
we're
I
reading
don't
this
remember
email.
what that was about at all.
Oh, it was gross. I don't think you were here for that episode. It may have just
That's
been
probably
the two
good.
of us.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I think you told me about it later. I think you said I specifically picked this for a day you weren't going to be here.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think I would have been that sensitive.
You've always been pretty good about it. Like, I have to say that, like you went to bat and for having women on the show, like, long before it was the norm. Like, back in the day when we started, like,
Oh, it was extremely rare. Yeah.
yeah, and people were rude about it. Like, you got emails that you immediately discarded and didn't read, like, giving you shit for having women on the show.
Why do you have these whiny, screechy? It's like,
Yeah.
The bullshit emails I've gotten over the years that I have ignored and deleted and never mentioned.
Yeah.
Most of them I can't remember anymore, but I got a couple of those.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, like, for me, I think that's and we've had people write in saying, hey, seeing women, seeing other people, seeing people of color on the APs and giving advice, like really changed them. Like, Gina was one of those people, actually. Right. So Gina tuned in the early days, and she's, she said, oh, hey, I saw Kimmy and I saw Claire and stuff on there, and it was like, hey, this podcast has women on it. And we've had a lot of people give us that feedback.
Yeah, and our woman listenership compared to other RPG podcasts was an order of magnitude higher, or almost an order of magnitude higher.
Yeah, it was huge because it was super rare. Like it's really common now, which is great because the hobby has.
Yeah, everyone did it. Everyone eventually did it.
Yeah, which is great, and because the number of women gaming, I remember going to the conventions and being like, "Oh, there's 3 of us. Okay, cool."
Yeah.
And like the whole ballroom.
Ain't that way no more.
No, not at all. And it's really great. Like, it's been amazing and empowering and just delightful to see the hobby change that way and grow as far as like racial and cultural diversity too.
I remember it's one of my favorite stories. I remember your story about going into the gaming store.
Oh yeah.
And it was like quiet, and you were like, because you're the only girl there, and everything's like suddenly stopped. It's like, okay, I know you guys were doing something before I walked in here. What the hell just happened?
Hey, yeah.
Yes, so. I'm a girl. Yes, I'm buying dice. Everybody go back to doing what you were doing.
Yeah. So. Plus,
that was an actual thing that happened to you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was also like super hot early 20s, so at the time it felt weird, and now I look back on that like, oh.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, remember those days. Have more bonbons. All right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I was going to bring up the fact that when we first started, there weren't a lot of girl gamers, really. Or maybe there were, but we weren't.
There were. I mean, I feel like
because at the first con we went to, like you said, there really weren't that many.
Well, I mean, when I used to go to conventions back in like the late 70s, or mostly more early 80s, there would literally be like 3 girls at the convention.
Yeah,
that's
no,
it.
100%, yeah.
And some of them were just people's wives.
And one of them would be someone's mom, who was like helping out at like the registration desk or something. And then there was like 1 or 2 others.
I'm not exaggerating. It really was this way. And this podcast is 13 years old now, and even 13 years ago, this was more normal than it is now. And nowadays, there's families. It's all encompassing. Oh, yeah. It's nothing but good. But in the 13 years that we've been doing this, that has changed amazingly, amongst many other things. I think, and it's all for the better.
Absolutely.
And look at how many gaming systems we have now too.
Oh yeah.
Before it was Traveler, D&D, GURPS,
and now we've got thousands and thousands of
way too many
hacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Savage World games.
Yeah, and new systems all the time too.
Oh yeah,
I think that's one of the cool things. Like, the internet has made gaming more accessible so people can see themselves represented in it, but also made people be able to print. Like, you don't have to print out and mail like copies of your game system to people to get them to play it.
That was huge. That's probably one of, like, technologically, that was probably one of the most transformative things about the gaming industry in general, was things like drive-through RPG.
Yeah.
And when people finally said, fuck it, I'll put it on PDF. I won't care if people can copy it.
But this all happened.
That's why they didn't. That's why they didn't.
Yeah.
Adopt.
But this all happened on our watch in the 10 to 12 years that we've been doing this. All of this stuff it came around, and I have to say that back when we first started, it was.
I would have to go on Pirate Bay if I wanted to get a PDF of a specific role-playing game.
I was going to say it was since there were only like 5 systems, we could all speak with some sense of expertise about the 5 systems because that's all we knew. That's all we played. That's all that was out there. Now. There's so many games out there. It's really hard. I'm like, is Fate the one where which one is that?
Oh, Fate's passe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's gone.
It's not gone. People still play.
There's 8. There's some. I know there's some.
I mean, even Hero's probably passe now. Who plays that anymore?
Hero is not quite a dead game because the company kind of still exists. I think it's a 1-person operation at this point.
Yeah.
At least last time I heard.
Or the others just get killed by an avalanche of giant books. And
Yes.
have yet to find their
Yes,
bodies.
I think they died in the warehouse.
Yeah. It's a lot of books. They're big. They're thick. They're heavy. There's a lot of books.
Not as heavy as
Traveler 5.
5.
So I've been setting it up. I'm like, it's a good thing it wasn't working at the Traveler 5 warehouse. We'd never find their bodies.
Oh man, that was like such a big disappointment.
It was.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
It was.
He shamed himself.
What was it Dave's response? He's like, I'm pretty sure that he came...
His DeLorean appeared.
I'm going to show you how to make a role-playing game.
Here you go.
Came out from the 80s.
And then off he went.
Yep. And we're all like, what is this? Yeah.
Look at those probability charts.
My God, it's full of charts.
I was thinking about our very first APs. Like, remember the Ghostbusters AP that we recorded in your backyard while we were eating Chinese food?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Which people still love to listen to.
Yeah.
But I'm just like,
It's probably, by now, it's like 12 or 13,000 listens. It's got a
tons
shit
of
ton of
listens.
listens, yeah.
But it's also like between the crunching, like there's actually really fun role playing in there.
Oh, yeah.
But we didn't all have buddy mics either. It was just the 2 area mics across the top there.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't
And it was
think
outside.
I don't think it was that much smacking going on in Belgium.
It was like 3 dogs ago.
3 dogs ago. That's...
Oh, yeah, that probably would have been Leica and Tasha.
It was like in
It was-
Tasha, yeah.
Both of whom have passed to the great dog park in the sky.
Yeah,
Stu's
and
had
Xander
3 dogs named
Roystel.
Leica, though.
Right.
You've had 3 dogs named Leica, though. It's hard to keep... Okay.
Yeah, this one's Leica Jr.
Oh,
And Leica Jr.'s not here. I don't.
Yeah, Leica Jr. got
Currently own a
taken.
Leica.
Yeah.
I lost Leica in the divorce.
Yeah.
that's right.
Actually, she was gonna keep her here, I think, but then her house got broken into. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's the dog to take.
Yeah, the nice behaved one who's super protective.
She is super protective.
Yeah, oh, I know.
Got a little Akita in her.
Yeah, a lot.
Well, no, she's I think 1/4 Chow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Chow.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember, like, the first episode where we did the whole live video stuff when we got all this stuff set up? And
No.
it was like a
It
whole...
was the vampire AP. It was Mode of Sin.
Yeah.
Because like
That's
we
when it
had
was
the
set up with
cameras.
one camera down here pointing this way.
No, when we had him like sticking out from the walls on both sides, and like if you watch the game, like Stork
I'm
is
thinking
like.
before that.
I'm sitting on...
Huh? No. We started with them here, and it was a terrible idea because Stork walked into them like 4 times.
Just getting up, because I was underneath
So
it.
we're like, okay, we'll try putting it at the end of the table and shooting it like this way, and that's when we did Ashes of Exodus that way.
Right.
But yeah, because we put them like up high on both sides of the table, and it sort of looked like creepy, like security camera footage.
Right.
And like Stork just kept like awkwardly and nervously looking up at it, like he was stealing something.
But
in
it's
the
right
store.
over my head, and I'm...
It
Right.
was, yeah, it's funny.
He does the same thing when he goes in a grocery store.
Yeah.
He looks for the cameras and sits.
When you look like I do, it pays to watch
Of
out for
course.
these things.
Yeah.
Some goddamn hippies here to steal
Damn
fucking
long
Nutella.
Fox 50 says, with this being Stu's last episode, it's not his last episode. It's his last episode being responsible for the hard parts.
Right. But you never know. Who knows what could happen?
Don't say that. I wanted to say thank you again for donating your old books to our crew when we deployed. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You're
one of
very
those...
welcome.
That,
Yeah.
Very welcome.
That was a great story in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being shocked that the armed services played role-playing games. I don't know why I had this preconceived notion about what people did overseas
Right.
when they're fighting for
Mm-hmm.
our country, but role-playing games was not in my equation. And when you brought it up, I'm like, really? Is this the thing they want? You're like, oh, yeah. And when we send it out, we still get emails. And thank you for that, for reminding me.
And thank you for your service.
And
Yeah,
thank you for your
absolutely.
service. Absolutely. It was such an amazing... I feel more proud about that than a lot of the other things that we've done
Yeah.
on this
Yeah.
podcast, because we still get feedback from it, from people saying, yeah, I played those games. They were my sanity. It's really neat. It's really neat.
Yeah.
Even though it cost you a lot of money to...
It wasn't that, but it's not that bad.
Okay.
Because when you're mailing to an APO or FPO, what the military addresses, it's like the same cost as mailing domestically.
Yeah, they want you
Yeah.
to send stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. And now it's interesting, like we've heard from so many people in different places all around the world, who like, we don't have an internet connection here, things like that. Like, I think it was 2 weeks ago we heard from the people or 3 weeks ago, who are up in like the North Pole, like,
Right.
who were like, hey, we don't have streaming anything, we don't have the internet, so we download a bunch of episodes, and I make people listen
Well,
to them.
that's I mean, when the show started, that's what most people were doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was on iPods. You had to sync them.
Yeah, you'd have to sync them and download it.
Right.
And that's why we still have, like, the old naming conventions.
Yep.
Like, most of the time we don't, like, nobody needs that anymore.
Right.
But I've been told very specifically I'm not supposed to change that.
Well, there's actually several reasons for the thing in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because on a lot of car stereos, it will show the beginning of whatever the file name is of whatever you're showing. So it'll say hjrpg 26 whatever.
Yeah.
So people will know what episode they're listening to.
Yeah.
In fact, the guy who I did that because I noticed it in my own car. And then, like 2 weeks later, someone wrote in and said, "Thank you for doing what you're doing with the naming conventions. I won't explain why. You know."
It's just it's interesting to me too. I mean, we've had some sense of notoriety or some sense of fame with the Boggards, and then this is basically we started this just to get together, drink beer, and talk about role playing games, right? And we thought, why don't we record this while we're at it? Why don't we record a game or two and see what goes on? I remember thinking, why would anybody want to listen to anybody game? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And now it's become this
It's
thing.
a big thing now. It's big.
Yeah.
If only we'd
If only
back
we capitalized
in
it
the day,
back in the day.
known.
But my point is, like, it's still just us getting together and bullshitting,
Yeah.
right? And I'm astonished that people want to listen to it still.
Yeah.
To this day, I'm like, really?
Yep.
Really?
Maybe if we'd impressed Matt Mercer more when he'd been here, he would have asked us to be on his show. No,
I don't think
that
so.
was
No.
I don't think so.
No, he
No. He was
Probably
famous.
he probably already had the cast in his head. 'Cause
Probably.
At the time, I think that was when they were still doing the voiceover stuff.
He was.
Oh yeah, he still does that too.
Yeah. But
It was a couple of years before. I think it was a year or two before Critical Role started, though.
It was.
it was
It was
definitely
way early.
before.
He was still doing Thundercats at the time. I remember him mentioning it on the
Yes, he
podcast.
did.
And I remember he had done some film stuff too. And we met him through Taliesin because Taliesin was also a friend of the band.
And Tappy was in his Shadowrun games.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I remember he came on and he was full of great advice. It was really fun. But I remember him saying, "Yeah, this is he was like, this is something I want to do." And then 5 years later, he's capitalizing.
Yep.
You know, he owns the world with it, which is awesome. I have no ill will. In fact, I saw him at Ren Fair not too long ago, and I reminded him of who I was. And I said, "Congratulations on all your success," and he was very grateful to hear that because I don't think he gets that a lot, and I'm really happy.
I
He
bet
gets
gets
that
it
a lot now.
un-
100%. Yeah.
Probably.
Hey, remember me? That time I
Yeah.
bumped into you at the
Yeah.
gas station
Yeah.
that time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to be on your show, or I'd like to have you on our show.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that a rising tide raises all boats.
Oh, 100%. No.
Absolutely.
And they have a very well crafted show, and I have no jealousy at all compared. You know, what we do is
I
it's
was
apples and
jealous
oranges.
when I saw the line at Gen Con to go see them live.
I'm super jealous of their I'm really super jealous of their cameras. I want their camera equipment.
and
Beautiful.
editing and all of that. Yeah, they have
Yeah.
they have a very good setup.
Their line outside the Veterans Hall or whatever the theater was at Gen Con,
Yeah.
it was probably 8 or 9 people thick, and it went almost all the way around this big building. Think of the galaxy, a structure that large, with a line going almost all the way around it. That's like
8 or 9
6 or
people
8
thick,
people thick.
and we only get about 8 or 9 people that are live APs. So you know.
Well, I mean, it was probably as full as a typical Galaxy show. For
Yeah.
us.
I get it,
Because that venue, the venue he was at, I would say it was probably a 1,200 seat venue.
Yeah.
And the Galaxy's like a 6 or 7.
yeah.
It's funny, Jason's in the chat room right now. He's like, yeah, I actually didn't know anything about this world until Kimmy invited me. And it's very funny, like when I met Jason and Adam and stuff because I was their coach at a now defunct nerd gym in town. And Jason was like we kind of knew each other. It was like, oh, hey, like, yeah, you're my coach. Like, we know each other. And he invited me into his D&D game. It was a 5e game. So, and he was like, I forget if he like texted me or like Facebook messaged me or something. And was like, hey, I think you do role-playing games, right? And I was like,
Do I?
yes. Like, no, you do. You give that careful answer then.
Oh yeah.
You're like, yeah. And then,
Yeah, to look around see if there's any lockers.
yeah, it was, well, it was just one of those things. It's like, I don't know if I want to be in this game, and it's D&D, and I already know I don't like D&D very much,
Right.
and so it's one of those things. So he invited me into that game. Sam DeLev was in that game too. It was their like first ever role playing game, and it was just like this funny little like collection of people, and it was, I don't know, it's just kind of one of those things you think back, and I was like, things would be very different if I'd said no to that game.
Right.
Like, so different. Like, Adam probably wouldn't have joined the crew. Jason wouldn't have joined the crew because he ran Desert of Despair as, like, one of the first 5E campaigns we had. It's just, like, this funny little, I don't know how.
And again, they've become fast friends. Some of our best
100%,
friends.
yeah.
I was going to say, back when we first started, too, we had to be very careful about who we let know that we gamed, right? It was sort of like, I mean, even Kimmy was, like, trying to become a teacher. I'm like, I'm not sure this is a good thing. And I even at work, I was still like, I'm a gamer. And now I'm like, yes, I game. It's much more respectable. The world has changed. We can own
I
it.
don't know if we had much to do with that, though.
I like to think
I'm
we
just saying that
contributed a little part.
Yes.
Maybe.
Normalized it.
It has a lot more to do with the fact that there's now celebrities out there who are...
Yeah, but I feel like the tide was already going that way, which is why celebrities could.
That could be.
Like, I think it was already headed that direction. Celebrities are like, hey, this is a thing that we like to do anyway, and we can now capitalize on it. Like, I think that was a thing. But I also, like, I don't know, I had a point. I forgot it already. Sorry, never mind.
Well, I was also saying there was a lot of people like you and I, Stu, that gamed back in the day, took a long break with family and such, and then rediscovered it again.
We just get listeners all the time that a very similar story to that.
Yeah. And I think that the big, it's conjecture, but I think the big upswing in role-playing games now is for twofold. All the older people coming back into it, and then all the people that started out in video games, they want to try something else. Or, after a while, there's a sameness to video games. Like, what do you mean I can create a whole new world? It's new every time? I'm in.
Yeah.
It's, and we happen to be catching the wave right at that time.
Right.
Got swept along with it.
Yep.
I did, Dirk. You mentioned Henry Cavill for next season, and for a moment I was like, Henry Cavill can become our friend too.
Oh, yeah.
And then I completely forgot what I was going to say. That's exactly what happened. That would be amazing. I don't get, like, Twitter pated about many celebrities. Like, I guess I'm just LA jaded, but, like, Henry Cavill. I've been a long-time fan, man. Back in the Tudors, I was a big fan.
He's a legitimate nerd, too. He's not just like a poser nerd. He's like a legitimate nerd.
I just saw a movie that he was in recently.
Like,
and I didn't recognize. No, it wasn't. And it wasn't a superhero movie. It was something else.
It's Mission Impossible?
No.
God, the arm thing.
Very
It's very
recent.
sexy. It's silly, but very sexy.
What's the other one that my daughter loves it? Where there's two super spies. Is it?
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yes.
Yeah. He's really good in that one.
She loves that. It's one of her guilty
it's
pleasures.
good.
There's a whole boat
It's
chase
nice.
thing with the boat going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. She laughs hysterically. I get it. I get Henry Cavill. I understand that one. And he's a legitimate nerd.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel,
and a
I
good
don't
actor.
know.
He's a very good actor, too.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
It's hard to know with Vin
No,
Diesel.
I feel like, no, he 100% is a real nerd. Like, he wrote, like, the Witch Hunter movie that completely flopped, like, was about his original D&D character. Like, he's the guy who, like, loved his character.
Dude who wrote a script,
about his character, had the, like, chutzpah and, like, the power in Hollywood to get it made.
Get it produced.
Yeah, God, what is that movie called?
I did not know
Something The Witch Hunter. Oh,
I
God.
thought it was just called Witch Hunter or the Witch Hunter. It's like two of them.
I feel like
aren't
it
there?
was like a name, The Witch Hunt, and no, I don't know. I've Googled it. It's got a name, and yeah, it was like based on his game character. I don't remember if it was D&D or something else, but
That's funny.
yeah, he 100% is a legitimate nerd. The problem, I think, though, is he has a very specific character type. He's good at acting, and I think that doesn't necessarily translate well into role-playing games.
Characters that act like Vin Diesel.
Yeah, like that's kind of like what he has to do.
Yeah, I kind of
Because he's
noticed
been
that.
on a couple actual plays.
Yes, it's like John Wayne.
Yeah.
Like, he would make a great John Wayne.
Yeah, great.
John
so,
Wayne would.
yeah. The Last Witch Hunter, that's what it was. Thank you, James. James always has
Yeah,
answers
because
to my questions.
John Wayne played Genghis Khan. Now
Now
looky
look
here.
Gosh, that's such terrible. Yeah, that's like one of the things people are going to look back on in history and be like, I mean, already you're just like, oh.
But there's so many of those bad choices.
So many bad things wrong with
You got Sean Connery playing a Russian. Oh, Parushka. What's wrong with you people?
Oh my gosh, did you...
One ping only.
One ping
Did
only.
you see the Teletubbies intro to the
Yeah. To the Highlander theme.
Highlander theme.
I heard about it. I didn't see it.
It's in the Slack. You need to go look. If
Okay.
you haven't seen it, go look. It's the thing that I laugh about it. Like randomly, I'm sending it to my partner. I'm just like, and he writes back, "Oh my god, stop it."
Stop it. I have trauma around the Teletubbies because I remember my daughter at the time was of
Oh,
age
you had
to
a
watch
kid of
them.
the right age, so yeah.
I started watching this. Like, nope, we're not watching this.
See, my version of that with my kids was shit. What was the name of that goddamn show?
Dora the
There was
Explorer.
there was 4 of them. There
Oh,
was
the Wiggles.
No, there was the pink one. There was the giant red dildo.
Oh,
And there's the blue one.
right. And your ex-wife worked on it. It was
Yo
Yo
Gabba Gabba.
Gabba Gabba.
Oh, Yo Gabba Gabba, yeah.
And
that
everyone's
was
going, oh yeah, the big red dildo.
Yeah. This is why, because I've hung out with you guys for so many years, my family's like, why don't you just don't let her watch any TV? It's like, nope.
Nope.
She listens to music all day.
No, that was a wholesome show. It was
No,
a good
it was
show.
a very good show. It was.
And it had DJ Lance, who used to do the DJ Lance dance.
Yeah. They're very good shows.
Jack Black showed up in there. I
Yeah.
can't believe it fits.
I love Jack Black. He's so good.
I
Also-
probably
a nerd.
still have the DVDs of that around here. I might watch
He's
those.
done a couple APs, and like Jack Black is amazing in APs.
He's a nerd.
And
too.
it's amazing. The APs you watch, he's done a couple of the like celebrity actual plays where like he knows the rules. You're like, that's the nerd
That's
right,
right.
there. The other actors are like, okay, can I do this? And they're like, yeah, this. is how
Fuck,
you
it's
do it.
been that way since 3rd edition. Come on.
That's right.
He's kind of like that. He's like, oh no. He's like, I'm gonna roll this, and this, and go. And you're just like, I see you. Oh, who was it? Oh God. I might have said this. I don't remember how I say this in a person conversation or on this podcast. If I'm repeating myself, what's his name? Who does? Oh my gosh, I'm going blank. I'm so tired. The show right now that's the DC show, Peacemaker. No, Peacemaker.
John Cena?
John Cena. So he was.
Is that the guy who plays Peacemaker?
Yeah. So
Okay.
he's like the big, super ripped guy who used to be a wrestler.
Right.
Like, I was watching some behind-the-scene footage of him, and like he had like a fake finger because his finger is. So he looks at the camera and he's like, "Look, I'm Frodo of the Nine Fingers." I was like, "Oh shit, that's a deep cut. That's like Tolkien text deep. That's not in any of the movies. Like, you outed yourself as a total nerd."
That's funny.
I love that.
Because that's like
I love
legit
that.
what they call him. Like, that becomes his title afterwards. Is Frodo of the Nine Fingers is what they call him after like the whole ring and the
Right.
Yeah, sorry, I'm explaining it because that makes it funnier,
Yeah,
and
it
I'm a
does,
nerd
yeah.
about it. But it's just one of those moments where you're like, "Oh, look at that ripped person," and they say something, and you're just like, "Oh, I see you. Nobody gets it, but I see you. I see you." Yeah. That's what we need. We need John Cena, Henry Cavill, Jack Black. Oh, yeah. See, Dirk and I are on the same wavelength.
And Joe
here.
Manganiello?
Joe Megliano. I don't. Yeah.
How's his last name?
Who?
He's the very sexy werewolf from True Blood.
He's playing. When you said DC, that's who I thought because he's also
Joe
playing.
Megliano. I think that's
he's
what
playing
it is.
Deathstroke right now as well in the DC world. You'd recognize him if you saw him.
I saw True Blood, but I can't remember what
He's
the werewolf
the, like,
looked like. Oh no,
8-foot
I know now.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah, he's super tall, like
Brown eyes, dark
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's also pretty much a super nerd. He's the one that made me think like,
Yeah.
because people were saying you're a nerd, and he goes, and Vin Diesel's a nerd. He goes, is he though? Because I would know, because I host games and such, and I would know if Vin Diesel was really a nerd. I started to think about it.
I feel like
"Yeah,
that's like-
right. I don't know.
I feel like that's like maybe shade.
It was shade. It was shade for sure.
Well, he also is starting a D&D like clothing company.
Okay.
So I feel like he was like, oh, I don't know. But I don't know. I've always heard Vin Diesel. And Vin Diesel was one of the first stars to kind of start
Yes.
doing APs. So, like, I mean.
That is
yeah.
true. And
So I
Stephen
don't know.
Colbert is also a nerd. I mean, it's just the nerds around
yeah.
the world. I'm really into it.
Yay.
Who was it that played the lawyer in Daredevil? She was also in True Blood. Deborah.
Oh, yeah. She's
Deborah
running.
Hamwell.
She actually just started a new AP with some friends of mine, or a couple of them. My friend Alicia Marie from Cosplays in it. My friend Jen, who's a great designer, awesome. She's also in it. I forget the name of the show, but.
You see, it's very cool. This is all by way of saying that when we first started this, we all had to be very careful about outing ourselves as nerds. And
Yeah.
now we can proudly say, because there's people out there, even Nathan Fillion is a nerdy, claimed to use a gamer, and I can now say that there's people I admire who are famous, and they're not afraid to
Right.
Yeah.
fly their free flag, their nerd flag, their RPG flag. We can too. It's been that long, Stu.
Yep.
Yeah.
We went from like I hope our parents don't notice we're doing this too. Like, fuck yeah!
Should we call it?
I guess so.
All right.
Feels weird.
Where's the...
It does. We'll have to have you come back and guest host occasionally, Stu.
Well, yeah, you have to come on.
Yeah, well...
He's gonna come. He's probably gonna come and enjoy himself more because he won't have to run all the stuff.
To be clear, Stu is not really going away.
He's not leaving.
He's not going to be answering the emails anymore. He's
No,
not gonna
I
be doing
don't have
all the
cancer.
bookkeeping. And no, he doesn't have cancer.
What?
No.
Oh, I was like, did somebody ask that shit?
No. He's just stepping back from a lot of the fiddly behind the scenes stuff. Less responsibility and more
I'm
fun.
burned out.
Yeah.
I'm burned out. I'll get unburned out.
You will.
You don't like printing up a lot of papers every day? Really?
I would stop doing this. I'd make tablets from now on.
That's what we'll do with the Patreon money. Tablets for everyone. Tablets.
Most people have one.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
All right. Oh, play the thing. Here. Yep.
It's a Duma.
It's not a Puma.
It's not. I can't do that.
Thank you for joining us for season 29, episode 15 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name's Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Stork.
And thank you very much for listening for the last 13 years and continue listening for the next
don't leave.
30 years or however long.
I put a shit ton of work into the new studio. It's very nice. Please stay.
It'll be good.
It's going to be great. It's going to be so comfy and like so much space.
Are we switching days or anything, or is there anything to tell
Not
about
right
it?
now.
Okay.
Yeah, next Friday will be, hopefully, if everything's working. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood.
Excellent.
We'll be the first one at the studio.
And this will not affect you guys. You can still catch the podcast on all the same
Everything.
channels that you had
Yep.
in the beginning.
Everything.
And
Nothing's changing.
Nothing's changing.
Website,
Yep.
just a little more organized, probably. That was shade too.
And if you want to, I was plenty organized. And if you want to see what I'm going to be doing next, netbusker.net.
How do you spell busker?
Busker.
Okay.
Just like it sounds.
I don't know. People are terrible at spelling, I've discovered.
I would have put a C in it.
Yeah.
And there's no C in Busker.
Yeah.
Oh, clearly. But I would have.
Yeah.
All right.
It probably would have taken me to some other site that I probably didn't want to see at that
You should
point.
probably register like all the spellings of busker and pretty links them to the
It's
your
all the
actual
misspellings of
Yeah.
I'm surprised you were actually able to get it because it is a legitimate thing. Like in Ireland, busking in Europe, people go, itinerant musicians
Right.
go out and busk at the
I intend
subways.
to be an itinerant musician.
Strive for it.
The preceding program has been a presentation
I'm playing the button.
Media Empire.
Oh.
Because the music ran out long ago.
Oh. The dogs are singing.
Just as you started playing, the dog started singing. It's our very own gangrels.
Aww. They're saying goodbye. It is the dog's last episode. That is absolutely accurate.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe their last anything.
We're gonna leave them with a song.
I was gonna. You wanna
Do the thing.
Laser Printer Heroes?
Yes.
He looks upon
Now I'm gonna mute us.
the landscape of this ancient battlefield. He looks upon the horrors that curiosity revealed. That endless goblin army, full of avarice and device. He gently calms his battle steed as he reaches for his dice.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.